The night it happened began with silence, an eerie, unsettling silence that felt wrong long before anyone knew why. In a small town where engines and laughter usually ruled the streets, a sudden stillness swept over the Boneyard Riders MC clubhouse like a warning. And miles away, under the dim glow of a flickering street lamp, Emily Carter lay on the cold pavement, her breath shallow, her vision blurred, and her spirit trembling. Her motorcycle helmet rolled in slow circles beside her, spinning like the world she could no longer hold steady. She had been on her way home from the community center she volunteered at, unaware that a group of thugs had followed her for miles. She felt the first blow before she ever saw their faces. And now, as she tried to force her broken body to move, all she could think of was her husband, Ryan, the club's vice president, who always told her that she was the strongest woman he had ever known. Tonight, that strength was hanging by a thread. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and standing up for what is right, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps stories like this reach more hearts. When Emily didn't arrive home on time, Ryan felt the unease crawl into his bones. He was used to danger, used to storms, but he had never feared one the way he feared anything happening to her. The club brothers noticed the shift in him, the tapping foot, the clenched jaw, but no one dared speak. They knew Emily was the soul of their tough-looking family, the one who brought food to meetings, patched jackets, and made even hardened bikers feel human again. When the call finally came in from a passing truck driver who found her lying unconscious by the roadside, the clubhouse erupted into chaos. Ryan didn't speak. He simply grabbed his helmet, revved his engine, and rode like a man whose entire world was slipping through his fingers. Emily woke up in a blur of sterile lights and muffled voices. Her body ached in ways that made breathing feel like punishment. The bruises painted across her skin were only shadows of the terror she'd lived through. But the worst wound was the feeling that she had been preyed upon, targeted, and humiliated. She didn't want Ryan to see her like this, broken and trembling. Yet when he stormed into the hospital room, his eyes red, his hands shaking, something inside her cracked, not out of fear, but out of love so deep that even pain could not bury it. She knew he blamed himself, the club, the world, anything he could reach. The strong biker VP who feared no enemy was now terrified of losing the one person he couldn't fight without losing himself. Ryan's club gathered outside the hospital in a silent, disciplined formation. They weren't just bikers. Tonight, they were protectors. Witnesses. A storm waiting for its direction. Ryan knew he had to make a choice, act out of rage or out of justice. Emily, with her swollen eyes and trembling breath, made that decision for him without ever speaking a word. Her pain demanded action, but her heart would never want bloodshed in her name. The club understood. Revenge was easy. Protecting the vulnerable was harder, but it was the road they needed to take. While Emily rested, the riders began their search. They retraced her route, visited every gas station, spoke to every witness, and checked every street camera they knew about. The more they uncovered, the angrier they became. The thugs were not just random troublemakers, they were part of a group known for targeting lone riders, especially women. Emily had not been their first victim. But the riders knew she would be their last. Using every connection, every ounce of influence they had built over the years, they tracked down the men responsible. Instead of ambushing them with violence, they orchestrated something far more powerful: exposure. They recorded testimonies from other victims, contacted law enforcement officials they had helped in the past, and created an airtight case that forced the authorities to act swiftly. The thugs were arrested within 24 hours, stunned by the sudden pressure from all sides. While justice played out, Ryan remained by Emily's side. He fed her, helped her sit up, held her hand when nightmares shook her awake. Emily had always admired his strength, but in those quiet nights, she saw a different kind of power, the strength to be gentle. She struggled with fear, with shame, with the guilt that somehow she had brought trouble to the people she loved. But Ryan reminded her, through every steady breath and every soft touch, that survivors were not burdens. They were warriors. Her healing was slow, painful, and full of moments when she felt like giving up, but the club never left her. They sent meals, flowers, jokes, and stories to make her smile. Big, tattooed men who would normally intimidate strangers became her personal support system. They promised her she would never ride alone again. Weeks later, when Emily felt strong enough to stand without trembling, the club organized something she didn't expect. They planned a ride, an honor ride, dedicated to her courage. Hundreds of bikers from neighboring towns joined in. Engines roared through the streets in a thunderous symphony, not of anger, but of solidarity. Emily rode at the center of the formation, surrounded on all sides by people who would protect her with their lives. She felt the wind on her face again, not as an enemy, but as freedom returning to her piece by piece. And for the first time since the assault, she felt whole. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to support more meaningful stories like this. Before the final moment of the ride, the club asked viewers to comment one thing. Please comment, "Strength rises again." As the sun set and the riders rolled to a stop overlooking the valley, Emily removed her helmet, tears sparkling in the fading light. She realized that though her world had been shaken, it had not been destroyed. She had been broken, but she was not beaten. Because when darkness tried to swallow her, a family of rough, loud, fiercely loyal bikers rose up, not to take revenge, but to rebuild the very spirit she thought she had lost. The thugs had taken something from her, but the club had returned something far more powerful, hope, and that hope would ride with her forever.